After 3 miscarriages and 15 years of marriage, Elena Voss finally carried life inside her again, 47 years old and 2 months pregnant with what doctors called impossible. She drove to her childhood home on Christmas Eve to share the miracle with her family, rehearsing the words that would make her husband smile for the first time in months. But when she pushed open her old bedroom door, she found Marcus Hale, the most dangerous man in the city, with his mouth on her younger sister's lips. The baby kicked. Elena's heart stopped, and something darker than grief took root in her chest. Welcome to a story of betrayal, survival, and the birth of something deadly. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The snow fell heavy that Christmas Eve, turning the city into something clean and quiet. A lie, really, because nothing in this place was ever clean. Elena Voss watched the flakes catch in the headlights as her driver navigated the slick roads toward the suburbs, toward the house where she'd grown up, where her mother still hung the same wreaths and baked the same cookies and pretended their family wasn't built on blood money and secrets. She pressed a hand to her stomach, feeling nothing yet, but knowing it was there. 8 weeks. The ultrasound photo was tucked in her purse, black and white proof of the impossible. 3 losses before this one, each one carving her out a little more, leaving her hollow in places she couldn't name. The doctors had said to wait, to not get attached, to understand that at her age the risks were... But she'd stopped listening. This one would live. She knew it the way you know things in your bones. Mrs. Hale? The driver's eyes found hers in the rear view. We're here. The house looked the same as always, 2 stories of painted brick, lights strung along the eaves, her mother's car in the driveway next to Livia's little Mercedes. Elena's chest tightened. She hadn't told anyone yet, not even Marcus. He'd been distant lately, distracted by problems in the organization, coming home late, smelling like cigars and tension. She'd planned to tell him tonight, after dinner with her family, when they were alone in the penthouse and she could watch his face change from guarded to soft. She'd imagined it 100 times. The way he'd touch her stomach, the way his jaw would unclench. The driver opened her door. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of snow and pine. She stepped out, her heels crunching on the fresh powder, and made her way up the walk. The front door was unlocked. It always was on Christmas Eve. Inside, warmth and cinnamon and her mother's voice calling from the kitchen. "Elena? Is that you, honey?" "It's me, Mom." She shrugged off her coat, hung it on the brass hook by the door. The house smelled like her childhood, like safety, like a time before she understood what her father really did for a living and who Marcus Hale really was. She'd married him at 32, young enough to still believe love could save people. 15 years later, she knew better. Love didn't save anyone. It just made you vulnerable. Her mother appeared in the hallway, flower on her hands, gray starting to thread through her dark hair. "You're early. I wasn't expecting you for another hour." "Traffic was light." Elena kissed her cheek. "Where's everyone?" "Your father's watching football. Livia's upstairs, I think. Said she needed to make a phone call." Her mother's eyes narrowed slightly. "You look pale, sweetheart. Are you feeling all right?" "I'm fine. Just tired." "Marcus isn't coming?" "He'll be here. He had something to handle first." That's what he'd said this morning anyway. Something to handle. That could mean anything. A meeting, a problem, a body. She'd learned not to ask. Elena climbed the stairs, her hand trailing along the banister she'd slid down as a kid. The second floor was quiet, doors closed, the hallway dim. Livia's laugh drifted from somewhere, muffled and low. Elena followed the sound to her old bedroom at the end of the hall, the one her mother had kept exactly the way she'd left it when she married Marcus. White furniture, floral curtains, photos of high school friends she didn't talk to anymore. The door was cracked open. Just an inch, enough to see movement inside. Elena's hand touched the wood, about to knock, about to call her sister's name. Then she saw them. Marcus had Livia pressed against the wall, one hand in her blonde hair, the other gripping her waist. Their mouths were locked together, hungry and familiar, like this wasn't the first time, like they'd done this before, many times before. Livia's eyes were closed. Marcus's weren't. And in the half-second before Elena's brain caught up to what she was seeing, his gaze flicked to the doorway and landed on her. He didn't pull away. He just stared at her, his mouth still on Livia's, and something in his expression wasn't surprise. It was calculation. Like he was deciding whether to stop or keep going, like her presence was an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. Elena's hand fell from the door. The baby fluttered inside her, real, alive, hers. The hallway tilted. She took a step back, then another, her heels silent on the carpet. Livia's laugh again, breathless now, unaware. Elena turned and walked back down the hall, down the stairs, past her mother in the kitchen, asking if she wanted tea. No, I forgot something in the car. Out into the cold, into the snow. The driver looked up, confused. She climbed into the back seat and closed the door. Take me home. Ma'am? The penthouse, now. He pulled away from the curb. Elena watched the house disappear behind them, the lights in her old bedroom window glowing warm and yellow. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. You left your purse. Another buzz. Marcus this time. Where are you? She turned off the phone. The city rose up around them as they drove. Glass and steel and money, the empire her husband had built on fear and bodies. The penthouse was on the 60th floor, all windows and cold marble, more museum than home. She decorated it herself when they first married, thinking she could make it warm. She'd failed. The elevator doors opened. She stepped into the silence. For a long time, she just stood there in the dark, her coat still on, snow melting in her hair. Then she walked to the bar and poured herself a drink before remembering she couldn't have it. The glass sat on the counter, amber and untouched. She stared at it until her vision blurred. The baby moved again. A reminder. A complication. She pressed both hands to her stomach and whispered, I'm sorry. For what? She wasn't sure yet. For the father it would have. For the world it would be born into. For the fact that she was already planning instead of crying, already thinking 3 moves ahead instead of falling apart. The elevator chimed. Marcus stepped into the penthouse, his coat dusted with snow, his face unreadable. He stopped when he saw her standing there in the dark. Elena? She didn't move. How long? He unbuttoned his coat slowly, buying time. How long what? Don't. Her voice came out flat. Don't insult me by pretending you don't know what I'm asking. He hung his coat on the rack by the door. Underneath, he wore a black sweater she'd given him last Christmas, cashmere and expensive. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year. While she'd been tracking her cycle, taking hormones, praying to wake up nauseous. While the doctors had told her this pregnancy probably wouldn't take either, that her body was too old, too damaged. While she'd lain awake next to him, wondering why he felt so far away. Why Livia? Does it matter? Yes. He moved to the bar, poured himself the drink she'd left sitting there. She was available. She was willing. She didn't ask questions. She's my sister. I know. The casual cruelty of it hit her like a fist. She'd expected excuses, justification, some story about loneliness or temptation. Not this cold accounting of convenience. I'm pregnant, she said. His hand stopped halfway to his mouth. The glass caught the city lights, throwing fractured patterns across his face. What? 8 weeks. I found out last Tuesday. He set the glass down. For the first time since he'd walked in, something cracked in his expression, something that might have been regret or might have been panic. Elena, I was going to tell you tonight. At my mother's house, I had it all planned. She laughed, and it sounded wrong, brittle. I was going to give you the ultrasound photo with your dinner. I thought you'd be happy. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. She walked past him to the bedroom, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. Her phone buzzed repeatedly, her mother, Livia, Marcus. She ignored all of it. Outside the windows, the city glittered like broken glass, beautiful and sharp. She didn't cry. Crying was for people who still believed things would get better, who thought pain was temporary. She knew better now. When morning came, she was still sitting there, watching the sun turn the snow pink and gold. Her phone had died hours ago. The apartment was silent. Marcus had left at some point. She'd heard the elevator, the absence of him. She stood, her body stiff from staying in one position too long, and walked to the bathroom. In the mirror, she looked exactly the same. 47 years old, dark hair starting to silver at the temples, eyes the color of smoke. The only difference was something behind those eyes, something new and cold that hadn't been there yesterday. She showered, dressed, made coffee she wouldn't drink. When Marcus came home around noon, she was sitting at the dining table with her laptop open, going through his emails. He stopped in the doorway. "What are you doing?" "Reading." She clicked to the next message. "Did you know Victor Rains has been skimming from the Eastern shipments, about 200,000 over the past 4 months? That's not your concern. Everything's my concern now." She looked up at him. "Sit down." "Elena, sit down." He sat. She could see him recalibrating, trying to figure out what version of her this was, whether she was breaking or hardening. She barely knew herself. "I'm not leaving," she said. "I'm not divorcing you. I'm not going to make a scene or tell my family or do any of the things you're probably worried I'll do." His jaw tightened. "Then what are you going to do?" "I'm going to have this baby, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to figure out exactly how deep this rot goes." "What rot?" She turned the laptop around so he could see the screen. Financial records, encrypted messages she'd spent all morning breaking into, using passwords he thought were secure. Victor's not just stealing money. He's building something, a network inside your network. And Livia? She clicked to another file. She's been feeding him information, shipment schedules, security details, the names of people you trust. Marcus's face went blank in the way it did when he was furious. "That's not possible. Look at the dates. They match up with every time she's been here. Every time she's visited me for lunch or borrowed money or showed up crying about some boyfriend." Elena's voice stayed level. "She's been playing both of us." He reached for the laptop, scrolling through the evidence. She watched him piece it together, saw the moment he understood the scope of it. "How long have you known?" "Since about 4 this morning. I couldn't sleep, so I started looking." "Why?" "Because I needed to know if she seduced you or if you seduced her. If it was sex or strategy." She closed the laptop. "Turns out it's both. She wanted you, and Victor wanted a way in. She gave him that." Marcus stood, paced to the windows. Outside, the city sprawled below them, all his territory, all his power. "I'll kill them both." "No." He turned. "No? If you kill them now, you look weak, reactive, like a husband who got caught cheating." She stood, met his eyes. "We're going to be smarter than that." "We?" "You made this mess with your dick and your ego. I'm going to help you clean it up because I can't raise a child in a collapsing empire." She touched her stomach. "But after this is done, we're going to have a very different conversation about what this marriage is." For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then something shifted in his face. Respect, maybe, or recognition. "What do you need from me?" "Time. Access. And you're going to end it with Livia today." "Already done. I told her this morning." "How'd she take it?" "She cried, said she loved me." He said it like it was meaningless, like love was just another currency. Maybe for him it was. Elena picked up her phone, turned it back on. 53 missed messages. She deleted them all without reading. "Victor will make his move soon. He's been careful, but now that Livia's out, he'll panic." "How do you know?" "Because that's what I'd do." She looked at Marcus, this man she'd loved and married and built a life with, and felt nothing but calculation. "We're going to let him think he still has a chance. We're going to feed him just enough rope. And then? Then you remind everyone why they're afraid of you." Marcus moved closer, studying her face like he was seeing her for the first time. "You're different." "Yes." "Because of the baby?" "Because of everything." She stepped back before he could touch her. "I'm going out. I need air." "Where?" "Does it matter?" She left him standing there and took the elevator down to the parking garage. Her car was where she'd left it, black and sleek and fast. She drove with no destination, just movement, the city blurring past. Eventually she found herself at the Old Harbor, the industrial district where Marcus's empire had started, where shipping containers stacked like building blocks and the water smelled like oil and fish. She parked and sat watching the gulls circle overhead. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Yes?" "Mrs. Hale." A man's voice, smooth and familiar. Victor Rains. I heard about your sister. I'm sorry. Her hand tightened on the phone. Why are you calling me? Because I wanted to check on you, see if you needed anything. I'm fine. Are you? A pause. Your husband's not an easy man to love. I imagine it gets lonely. Is there a point to this call? Just offering a friendly ear. If you ever need to talk. About anything. His voice dropped lower. About anyone. She understood then. He thought she was weak, hurt, vulnerable. He was testing to see if she could be turned, if her pain could be weaponized. The old Elena might have hung up, might have told Marcus, might have played it safe. This Elena smiled. That's kind of you, Victor. Maybe I'll take you up on that sometime. I hope you do. She ended the call and sat there in the cold car, her breath fogging the windows. The baby moved, a tiny flutter, and she whispered, Pay attention. This is how you survive. The next week passed in careful performance. Elena played the wounded wife, quiet at dinners, withdrawn in company, all surface hurt and no sharp edges. Marcus played the guilty husband, attentive but distant, buying her gifts she didn't want. And Livia stayed away, blocked on Elena's phone, persona non grata at family gatherings. But at night, in the penthouse, Elena worked. She mapped Victor's network, identifying his people, his money flows, his weaknesses. She found the accounts where he'd hidden the stolen funds, the offshore holdings, the properties purchased under shell companies. She tracked his meetings, his calls, his patterns, and slowly, a picture emerged of a man who thought he was clever, but was really just obvious. Marcus watched her work with something like awe. Where'd you learn to do this? I've had 15 years of watching you. I paid attention. She highlighted another transaction. He's meeting with the Volkov crew next Tuesday, old warehouse in the shipyard. How do you know? Because I've been listening to his phone calls. She'd installed the malware herself, simple software that turned his cell into an open mic. He's offering them a partnership, half your territory in exchange for muscle when he makes his move. The Volkovs won't go for it. They know better. They might if they think you're weak, if they think your house is divided. She looked at him. That's what Livia was for, proof that even your wife couldn't trust you. Marcus's expression darkened. She tell him about the baby? Not yet, but she will. How do you know? Because I would. Elena closed the laptop. She's desperate now. You cut her off. I won't talk to her. The family's taking my side. She's got nothing left except what Victor promised her. Which is? You. She thinks when he takes over, she'll become his queen instead of his pawn. Elena stood, stretched her back. 12 weeks now, just starting to show if you knew where to look. We need to move before she figures out she's wrong. The doctor said you need to rest. The doctor says a lot of things. Elena, I'm fine, the baby's fine, and we're running out of time. She moved to the windows, looked out at the city. Victor's planning something for New Year's Eve. Big party, all your people, lots of witnesses. That's when he'll make his play. How do you know? Because that's when I do it. Everyone's drunk, everyone's distracted, everyone's in one place. She turned back to him. He's going to kill you in front of your own people and take over before anyone can react. Marcus went very still. You sound certain. I am. How? Because he told me. She pulled up the recording on her phone, Victor's voice smooth and confident. New Year's Eve, Mrs. Hale. That's when everything changes. I hope you'll be ready to make a choice about where your loyalties lie. When did he send this? Yesterday. He thinks I'm so hurt and angry that I might help him, that I might want revenge on you badly enough to watch you die. She paused. He's not entirely wrong about the first part. Marcus crossed to her, his expression harder than she'd ever seen it. Do you? Do I what? Want to watch me die? She considered the question honestly. Some days, but not today. Today I want to watch you burn his world down. Why? Because he threatened my child. She played another clip, Victor's voice again. I know about the pregnancy. Congratulations. Though I have to wonder if it's really his, given the circumstances. Wouldn't that be ironic? All this trouble over a bastard. Marcus's jaw clenched. I'll kill him myself. No, we do this clean. We do this right. She met his eyes. New Year's Eve, we let him make his move, but we'll be ready. And when it's done, everyone will know what happens to people who touch what's yours. What's ours? He corrected. No. Her voice was cold. I'm not yours anymore, Marcus. We're partners in this because we have to be. But don't confuse that with forgiveness. I don't. Good. She walked away, leaving him standing by the windows. In the bedroom, she found the ultrasound photo tucked in her nightstand drawer, the little bean-shaped shadow that was her son or daughter. The technician had asked if she wanted to know the sex. She'd said no. Some surprises were worth keeping. Her phone buzzed. Livia, from a new number. Please talk to me. I'm sorry I made a mistake. Please. Elena deleted it. Another message, right after. Victor says you're helping him. Is that true? Elena, please. He's dangerous. Don't do this. So Victor had already planted that seed, already started turning Livia against herself. Divide and conquer. It was smart. She'd give him that. She typed back, stay away from him. Stay away from all of this. Livia's response came fast. I can't. He says if I don't help him, he'll tell everyone what I did. He'll ruin me. You ruined yourself. I know. I'm sorry. Please, you have to believe me. Elena turned off the phone. Livia's regret was real, probably. Her fear was definitely real. But none of it changed what she'd done or what was coming. In this world, sorry didn't save you. Only power did. The days until New Year's Eve counted down like a timer on a bomb. Elena moved through them with focus. Sleeping little, eating less, running on adrenaline and calculation. The baby grew inside her, oblivious to the war being planned around it. At 16 weeks, she felt it kick for the first time, sharp and insistent, like it was already fighting. Marcus threw the party himself, a massive thing at one of his clubs downtown, everyone who mattered in attendance. Elena dressed carefully, black dress, nothing too tight, heels that could run in if needed. She looked like a mob wife, elegant and expensive and just dangerous enough. In the car on the way there, Marcus loaded his gun. You won't need that, she said. I'll feel better having it. Suit yourself. But when this goes sideways, don't shoot until I tell you to. He glanced at her. You're giving orders now? Someone has to keep you alive. The club was all music and lights and champagne, hundreds of people packed into the space, dancing and drinking and celebrating. Elena moved through the crowd with Marcus at her side, shaking hands, accepting kisses on the cheek, playing her role perfectly. She saw Victor across the room, watching her with something calculating in his eyes. She met his gaze and smiled. At 11:30, he approached. Mrs. Hale, you look beautiful. Thank you, Victor. Can we talk? Privately? She glanced at Marcus, who nodded. They stepped out onto the balcony, cold air rushing in, the city spread below them. Victor closed the door behind them. I'm glad you came, he said. It's my husband's party. Where else would I be? I thought you might be angry, after everything. I was. I'm not anymore. He moved closer. Have you thought about what I said? About where your loyalties lie? I have. And? She looked at him. This man who thought he was smart enough to steal an empire, who thought betrayal was just business. I think you've made a mistake, Victor. His expression shifted just slightly. What kind of mistake? You assumed I was weak because I'm hurt. You assumed I'd choose revenge over survival. She pulled her phone from her purse, pulled up the recordings. You should know better. His face went blank. Behind them, the door opened. Marcus stepped out, and behind him, 6 men with guns. Victor's hand went to his waist, but Elena was faster. She had Marcus's backup piece against his ribs before he could breathe. Don't. You. He stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You played me. Yes. The baby is fine, and will grow up knowing what happens to people who threaten its mother. Marcus took the gun from Victor's waistband, handed it to one of his men. Everyone inside is yours? Most of them, Victor said, his voice tight. Enough to matter. Not anymore. Marcus gestured, and his men moved inside. Through the glass, Elena watched them spread through the crowd, identifying Victor's people, separating them out. It was surgical, efficient. No one even screamed. You can't do this, Victor said. They'll fight. They'll die, Marcus corrected. Just like you. Wait. Victor looked at Elena, desperate now. Please, I have money. I have information. I can give you names, connections. I already have all of that, Elena said. I've had it for weeks. Understanding dawned in his eyes. The sister. You used her. No, you used her. I just let you. She stepped back, lowered the gun. Marcus. He pulled the trigger 3 times, center mass. Victor dropped, blood spreading across the balcony. Inside, the music was still playing. No one had heard. Elena looked down at the body, felt nothing. The baby kicked. Once, twice. She touched her stomach. We need to clean this up, she said. Already handled. They went back inside. The party was still going, but different now, quieter, more watchful. People clustered in corners, whispering. Marcus's men stood at every exit. Elena saw Livia across the room, pale and shaking, realizing too late what she'd been part of. Their eyes met. Livia started to cry. Elena turned away. At midnight, the countdown started. 10, 9, 8. Elena stood next to Marcus on the balcony, watching the city light up with fireworks. 7, 6, 5. His hand found hers, and she let him hold it, this monster she'd married, this father of her child. 4, 3, 2, 1. The new year began with explosions of light and sound, and somewhere in the noise she heard Victor's men being rounded up, heard the empire settling back into place, heard the future clicking into position like a lock. She was 4 months pregnant, standing in blood, and she'd never felt more alive. The cleanup took 3 hours. By the time the sun started threatening the horizon, Victor's body was gone. The balcony was scrubbed clean, and 18 of his people had been loaded into vans headed for places Elena didn't ask about. She sat in Marcus's office at the back of the club, her feet up on a leather ottoman, watching him make phone calls to people who needed to hear his voice, needed to know the threat was handled. It's done, he said into the phone for the 5th time. No, completely. Yes, I'm sure, because I watched him bleed out myself, that's how. A pause. Good. I'll expect you Tuesday. He hung up, rubbed his face. It was 4 in the morning, and he looked older than she'd ever seen him, the lines around his eyes deeper in the harsh office light. How many left? She asked. 2 more calls, then we're clear. And the Volkovs? They're backing off, sent their apologies an hour ago. He poured himself a drink, didn't offer her one. He'd learned. Said they never seriously considered Victor's offer. They're lying. Of course they're lying, but they're scared now, so it doesn't matter. Elena shifted in the chair, her back aching. 16 weeks pregnant, and she'd just helped orchestrate a purge. The doctor would have a stroke if she knew. What about the witnesses? What witnesses? Far as anyone knows, Victor got drunk and wandered off. Happens at parties. Marcus sat on the edge of his desk. His body won't turn up for months, if ever. People will talk anyway. Let them. Better they whisper about what happened than think they can try it themselves. She supposed that was true. Fear worked better than affection in this world. She'd learned that tonight, watching grown men plead for their lives, watching Marcus's face stay blank while he decided who lived and who didn't. She'd stood there with blood on her shoes and felt nothing but satisfaction. What was happening to her? The baby kicked, like it heard the question. She pressed a hand to her stomach, felt the flutter of movement. Still alive, still fighting. We should go home, Marcus said. I want to talk to Livia first. Elena, she's here, isn't she? You had your men grab her. His jaw tightened. She's in the storage room downstairs, but you don't need to... Yes, I do. She stood, ignoring the head rush. Where's the storage room? I'll take you. They went down a back staircase, concrete and cold, the kind of place that smelled like old beer and regret. At the bottom, one of Marcus's men stood guard outside a metal door. He nodded at them, unlocked it. Inside, Livia sat on a wooden crate, her face blotchy from crying, her party dress torn at the shoulder. She looked up when Elena entered, and something crumpled in her expression. Elena? Don't. Elena held up a hand. I don't want to hear it. Please, I need to explain. There's nothing to explain. You slept with my husband. You fed information to a man planning to kill him. You did it for 6 months while I was trying to have a baby. Elena's voice stayed flat. What's there to explain? Livia's hands twisted in her lap. I didn't know about the baby. I swear if I'd known, you would have what? Stopped? Felt guilty? Elena moved closer. You knew I'd been trying for years. You knew about the miscarriages. You just didn't care. That's not true. I care about you. You're my sister. Don't call me that. The words came out sharp enough that Livia flinched. You lost that right when you put your mouth on him. Tears streamed down Livia's face, but Elena felt nothing. No pity, no anger, just cold calculation. This woman had tried to destroy her life. The fact that they shared blood didn't change that. Victor's dead, Elena said. Livia's breath caught. What? Marcus killed him about 3 hours ago. Shot him on the balcony. 3 in the chest. Elena watched her sister's face drain of color. All his people are dead too, or will be soon. Whatever he promised you, it's gone. I wasn't helping him. I was trying to... I have recordings, Livia. I have your voice on tape feeding him schedules, telling him which guards to bribe, explaining Marcus's patterns. Elena pulled out her phone, played a clip. Livia's voice, bright and conspiratorial. He never checks the eastern warehouses on Thursdays. That's when the shipments come in. If you hit them then, you'd have at least an hour before anyone noticed. Livia covered her mouth. Oh, God. You helped him plan a coup. You helped him try to kill my husband. Elena put the phone away. Why? I don't know. Livia's voice broke. I don't know. I was stupid. I was jealous. Of what? Of you. The words burst out of her, raw and messy. You had everything. The house, the money, the husband who everyone feared. I had nothing. I was just the little sister, just the screw-up who couldn't keep a job or a boyfriend or anything. She wiped her eyes, smearing mascara. And then Marcus looked at me like I was worth something, like I mattered, and I wanted to keep that feeling. So you destroyed us both for a feeling. I know. I know it was wrong. I know I'm a terrible person. I know... Livia stood, reaching for her. Please, Elena, please, I'll do anything. I'll disappear. I'll leave the city. I'll never contact the family again. Just please don't let him kill me. Elena stepped back before Livia could touch her. He's not going to kill you. Hope flared in Livia's eyes. He's not? I won't let him. You're going to live. Elena paused. But not here. What do you mean? You're leaving. Tonight. You're going to disappear, like you said. You'll take the money in your accounts, you'll go somewhere far away, and you'll never come back. But the family will be told you betrayed us, that you helped a man try to murder Marcus, that you're not welcome in this city anymore. Elena's voice was clinical, detached. Mom will cry, Dad will be ashamed, and in time they'll forget you existed. Livia sank back onto the crate. You can't do that. I already have. Marcus sent the message an hour ago. Elena checked her watch. Your flight leaves at 6. You'll be on it. Where am I going? Does it matter? Elena, please. You had 6 months to think about consequences. You chose to ignore them. Elena turned toward the door. A car will take you to the airport. Don't try to contact anyone. Don't try to come back. If you do, I can't protect you from what happens next. I'm your sister. Elena looked back at her, this woman who shared her blood and her childhood and nothing else that mattered. No, you're not. Not anymore. She left Livia crying in the storage room and climbed back upstairs. Marcus was waiting in the hallway. That was kind, he said, letting her live. It wasn't kind. Dead. She'd be a martyr. Alive and exiled, she's a cautionary tale. Elena walked past him toward the exit. Make sure she gets on that plane. Already arranged. Outside, dawn was breaking, pink and gold over the buildings. Elena's driver pulled up and she climbed into the back seat, exhausted down to her bones. Marcus slid in beside her. You should sleep, he said. I will. Eventually. They drove in silence through empty streets, the city just waking up, delivery trucks and early commuters starting their routines. Normal people doing normal things, oblivious to the blood that had been spilled while they slept. At the penthouse, Elena went straight to the bedroom, peeled off her dress, and stood in the shower until the water ran cold. When she emerged, Marcus was sitting on the bed, still in his suit, looking at something on his phone. "What?" she asked. "The Volkovs want a meeting. Tomorrow." "Tell them no." "Elena, they had a chance to be loyal. They chose to listen to Victor's pitch instead. Now they want to make nice because they're scared." She pulled on a robe. "Make them wait. Make them sweat." "How long?" "A week. 2. Long enough that they understand they don't get to demand anything from you anymore." She sat at her vanity, started removing her makeup. In the mirror, she could see Marcus watching her. "You're good at this," he said. "At what?" "Strategy, power, all of it." He stood, moved behind her. "I underestimated you." "Yes, you did." "I'm sorry." She met his eyes in the mirror. "Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught?" "Both, probably." He had the decency to sound honest. "I don't expect you to forgive me." "Good, because I won't." "Then what do we do?" She turned to face him. "We survive. We raise this baby. We run this empire together because neither of us can do it alone anymore." She paused. "But we're not a love story, Marcus. We're a business arrangement now. Is that what you want?" "It's what we have." He nodded slowly. "All right, then let's make it work." He left her alone after that, and she climbed into bed, her body finally giving in to exhaustion. But sleep didn't come easy. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Victor falling, saw Livia crying, saw the faces of the men who'd been loaded into those vans. She'd done that. She'd planned it, executed it, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The woman she'd been 6 months ago wouldn't recognize her now. The baby kicked again, stronger this time. She put both hands on her stomach and whispered, "I'm doing this for you. Remember that." The next weeks blurred together. Elena's pregnancy progressed, 18 weeks, 20, 22, and with it came doctor's appointments, vitamins, dietary restrictions she ignored when no one was watching. She also dove deeper into Marcus's business, learning the operations from the inside, attending meetings he'd never let her near before. At first, his men didn't know what to make of her. She was the boss's wife, supposed to be ornamental, not operational. But after the 3rd meeting where she caught a discrepancy in their numbers, and the 4th where she suggested a route optimization that saved them 2 hours on deliveries, they stopped questioning her presence. "She's got a head for this," she heard one of them say to Marcus after a particularly brutal negotiation session. "Where'd you find her?" "I married her 15 years ago and just now realized what I had," Marcus answered. It should have felt like a compliment. Instead, it felt like an epitaph for who she used to be. At 24 weeks, the doctor told her the baby was a boy. She was sitting on the exam table, gel on her stomach, watching the ultrasound screen while the tech pointed out fingers and toes and the strong, steady heartbeat. "Do you want to know the sex?" the doctor asked. She'd planned to say no, to keep it a surprise. But looking at the little form on the screen, she heard herself say, "Yes." "It's a boy. Congratulations." A son. She was having a son. The reality of it hit her strange. This little person would grow up to be a man like Marcus, like Victor, like all the men in this world who thought power came from fear and bullets, unless she taught him different. "Is the father here?" the tech asked. "He's working." "That's too bad. This is the fun appointment." Elena looked at the screen, at her son moving and stretching in his little universe. "Yeah. Too bad." She didn't tell Marcus when she got home. She'd tell him eventually, but for now, this was hers. Her secret, her boy, her future. The Volkovs finally got their meeting 3 weeks after New Year's. Marcus made them come to his territory, made them wait in the lobby for 40 minutes before allowing them up. Elena sat in on the meeting, 8 months pregnant now, her belly impossible to hide. Dmitry Volkov stared at her like she was a bomb that might go off. "Mrs. Hale, I didn't expect— I'm here for all meetings now," she said. "Sit down." They sat. There were 3 of them, Dmitry and his 2 brothers, all thick-necked and nervous. Good. They should be nervous. Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You wanted to talk." "We wanted to clear the air," Dmitry said. "There were some misunderstandings. You listened to a pitch from a man planning to murder me, Marcus interrupted. Where's the misunderstanding? We never agreed to help him. But you didn't tell me about it either. Dmitri shifted in his seat. We were assessing our options. And now? Elena asked. Now we understand Victor was a liar and a thief. We're glad you dealt with him. Dmitri's eyes flicked to her stomach. We're also here to offer congratulations. A son is a blessing. So they knew it was a boy. Either they had someone inside the doctor's office or they'd made educated guesses based on her shopping habits. Either way, it was a reminder that nothing in this world was private. Thank you, she said. I'll make sure to teach him who his real friends are. The threat landed. Dmitri nodded. We want to be those friends. Then prove it, Marcus said. You've got territory on the east side that overlaps with some of my interests. I want full access to the port facilities. That's a significant ask. It's a test. Pass it, and we rebuild trust. Fail it, and we find out what your territory looks like under new management. Dmitri looked at his brothers. Some silent conversation happened between them, the kind of communication that came from shared blood and shared history. Finally, he nodded. All right, you'll have access. Starting when? End of the month. Next week, Elena said. Dmitri's eyes narrowed. That's not enough time. Then make time. Or don't, and see what happens. She stood, her hand on her lower back. We're done here. They left looking smaller than when they'd arrived. After the door closed, Marcus turned to her. You're enjoying this. Should I pretend I'm not? Most people would. I'm not most people, not anymore. She sat back down, the chair more comfortable now that she didn't have to perform. Did you notice Dmitri's watch? No. Patek Philippe, limited edition, worth about $300,000. She pulled up a photo on her phone. He bought it 2 weeks ago. Cash. So? So he's been crying poor for months, saying their operations are struggling. But he's buying watches that cost more than most people's houses. She showed him the transaction records she'd pulled. I think the Volkovs are doing better than they want us to know. Marcus studied the records. Why hide it? Because if we think they're weak, we won't pressure them for concessions. We might even give them favorable terms out of pity. She took the phone back. But they're not weak. They're positioning. For what? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Over the next month, Elena dug into the Volkovs' operations with the same intensity she'd used on Victor. She tracked their shipments, their purchases, their meetings. And slowly, a picture emerged of a family that wasn't struggling at all. They were expanding, quietly buying up properties, recruiting new soldiers, building something bigger than anyone realized. They're preparing for a war, she told Marcus one night. They were in bed, her on one side, him on the other, the space between them a familiar distance now. Not with us, with the Calabrese family. The Calabreses have been quiet for years. Not anymore. They've got new leadership. Antonio's nephew took over last month, and word is he's ambitious. She showed him the intelligence she'd gathered. The Volkovs think there's going to be a territorial fight. They're getting ready. And they didn't tell us because? Because they don't want us taking sides. If they tell us, we might demand a cut or force a peace they don't want. She closed the laptop. They're trying to handle it themselves. That's a mistake. Maybe, or maybe they're smarter than we think. She shifted, trying to find a position that didn't make her back scream. 32 weeks now, and her body felt like it belonged to someone else. If they win, they'll be stronger. If they lose, we step in and take what's left. You want to let them fight. I want to see what happens. We intervene too soon, and we look weak. We intervene too late, and we look blind. She looked at him. There's a sweet spot. We just have to find it. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then, when did you get so ruthless? When I had to be. Because of me. Because of a lot of things. She turned off her lamp. Go to sleep, Marcus. We've got a meeting with the accountants in the morning. But she didn't sleep. She lay there in the dark, feeling her son move inside her, and thought about the world he was about to enter. A world of violence and calculation, where love was weakness and trust got you killed. She could try to protect him from it, shelter him, raise him soft. But that would just make him a target. Or she could teach him to survive it, teach him to be hard when needed, strategic always, and ruthless only when necessary. Teach him that power wasn't just about fear, it was about knowing when to use it and when to hold back. She could make him better than Marcus, better than her, better than all of them. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You don't know me, but I know you. I have information about your sister. She's not where you think she is." Elena stared at the screen. She'd sent Livia to Seattle, set her up with a job at a gallery owned by someone who owed Marcus a favor. It was supposed to be simple exile, clean and contained. She typed back, "Where is she?" The response came fast. "Still in the city, hiding, scared. She wants to come home. She doesn't have a home here anymore. She's pregnant." Elena's breath stopped. She read the message 3 times, looking for the lie, the angle, the trap. Then she called the number. It rang twice before a woman answered. "Who is this?" Elena demanded. "A friend of your sister's. She's been staying with me." "Why?" "Because she had nowhere else to go. The money you gave her ran out, and she couldn't find work, and then she found out about the baby." "How far along?" 5 months. She didn't know until recently. She's been sick, scared. She needs help." Elena closed her eyes. She made her choices. "She's your sister." "Not anymore." "Mrs. Hale, please. She's desperate. If she stays hidden much longer, someone's going to find her, and when they do, that's not my problem. She says you'll understand once you have your baby, that you'll know what it's like to be terrified for your child." The woman's voice softened. "She just wants to be safe." Elena hung up. She sat there in the dark, her heart racing, her mind spinning. Livia was pregnant. Livia was still in the city. Livia was a loose end that could unravel everything. She could tell Marcus. He'd find Livia, and that would be the end of it. Clean, simple, permanent. Or she could handle it herself. She got out of bed, got dressed, grabbed her keys. Marcus stirred. "Where are you going?" "Out. I'll be back." Elena, up. "I'll be fine." She drove across the city to the address the woman had given her, a rundown apartment building in a neighborhood Marcus's people didn't control, the kind of place where people minded their business and didn't ask questions. The woman who answered the door was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a bun. "Mrs. Hale?" "Where is she?" "In the back bedroom. She's sleeping." Elena followed her down a narrow hallway to a room barely bigger than a closet. Livia was curled on a twin bed, her blonde hair greasy, her face pale. She'd lost weight everywhere except her stomach, which was round and obvious under a thin blanket. "How long has she been here?" Elena asked. 3 weeks. She showed up one night, half-starved, saying you'd sent her away, but she couldn't leave. She's been terrified someone would find her." "Why didn't you call me sooner?" "She made me promise not to, but yesterday she started bleeding. I think something's wrong with the baby." Elena's hands clenched. "Has she seen a doctor?" "She's afraid to. Afraid if she uses her real name, someone will track her." "She's right. They would." Elena looked at her sister, this woman who'd betrayed her, who'd destroyed everything, who was now carrying a child into the same mess. "Wake her up." The woman gently shook Livia's shoulder. "Honey, your sister's here." Livia's eyes opened, unfocused at first, then sharpening when she saw Elena. She tried to sit up. "Elena, don't talk, just listen." Elena pulled a chair close. "You're going to come with me. I'm taking you to a private clinic, and we're getting you checked out. If the baby's in trouble, they'll fix it." "Why would you?" "Because I'm not going to be the reason a child dies, no matter who its mother is." Elena's voice was hard. "But after that, you're leaving. For real this time. I'm putting you on a plane to somewhere far away, and you're staying there. The baby will go with you, and you'll raise it alone, without our family's money or name or protection." Elena leaned closer. "You'll tell it whatever story you want about its father, but you'll never tell it about us. About Marcus, about me, about any of this. As far as your child knows, you came from nothing and built a life yourself." Livia's eyes filled with tears. "I can't do that alone." "You should have thought about that before you slept with my husband." "Elena, please. Those are the terms. Take them or leave them." Livia looked down at her stomach, her hand trembling as she touched it. Okay, I'll go. Just Just help me save the baby. Elena called her doctor from the car, explaining the situation in terms clinical enough that no questions were asked. They met at a private clinic on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that dealt with situations requiring discretion. The staff took Livia back immediately, and Elena sat in the waiting room, her own son kicking inside her like he could sense her tension. 2 hours later, the doctor emerged. She's okay. The bleeding was from a small tear, nothing serious. We've stitched it, given her fluids and vitamins. The baby's heartbeat is strong. Can she travel? In a few days, yes, but she needs rest first, and better nutrition. I'll make sure she gets it. Elena arranged everything from the waiting room. A safe house for Livia to recover in, watched by people Marcus trusted. A flight to Australia in a week, one way, under a fake name. Money transferred to an account only Livia could access. Enough to start over, but not enough to be comfortable. A job at a restaurant in Sydney, arranged through connections that wouldn't ask questions. It was more than Livia deserved. But it was the only way Elena could sleep at night knowing a child wasn't paying for its mother's mistakes. When Livia was cleared to leave, Elena drove her to the safe house herself. They didn't talk during the drive. What was there to say? Everything between them was already broken, and no amount of words would fix it. At the safe house, Elena walked Livia to the door, handed her a burner phone. You call me when you land, once, just so I know you got there safely. And after that? After that, we're done. You don't call, don't write, don't try to come back. You raise your baby, and you forget we exist. Livia's face crumpled. I'm sorry. For everything, I'm so sorry. I know you are. It doesn't change anything. Will you ever forgive me? Elena looked at her sister, really looked at her, the circles under her eyes, the way her hands shook, the fear etched into every line of her face. Once, they'd been close. Once, Elena would have died for her. But that was before. Before Marcus, before Victor, before everything that mattered got burned to ash. No, she said finally. I won't, but I hope you build something good anyway. She left Livia standing in the doorway and drove back to the penthouse as the sun was coming up. Marcus was in the kitchen, coffee in hand, looking at her like he'd been waiting. Where were you? Handling something. Livia? She stopped. How did you know? I have your phone tracked. I saw where you went. He set down his coffee. Is she dead? No, she's leaving the city for real this time. I made sure of it. You should have told me. Why? So you could kill her? Kill her baby? Elena poured herself water, her hands steady despite the exhaustion. I handled it. It's done. She betrayed us. And she's paying for it, just not with her life. Elena met his eyes. I'm drawing lines, Marcus, things I will and won't do. This is one of them. What if she comes back? She won't. She's too scared. Elena touched her stomach. And if she does, then you can handle it however you want. But right now she's just a broken woman with a baby on the way. That's not a threat. That's just sad. Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, your call. Thank you. But, Elena, next time something like this happens, you tell me first. Will there be a next time? In our world? Always. He was right, she knew. This was just the beginning. There would be more Victors, more Livias, more threats that needed handling, and each time she'd have to decide who she was. The woman who'd walked into that bedroom on Christmas Eve, or the one walking out of this kitchen now. She was 34 weeks pregnant, running an empire, and she'd just saved the life of the woman who'd tried to destroy hers. She didn't know what that made her, but she knew she could live with it, and in this world, that was all that mattered. The Volkov situation exploded 2 weeks later, exactly as Elena had predicted. She was 36 weeks pregnant, moving slowly, sleeping poorly, when Marcus got the call at 3 in the morning. She heard his voice in the next room, sharp and controlled, the tone he used when things were going sideways fast. She hauled herself out of bed, wrapped a robe around her swollen body, and found him in his office staring at security footage on his laptop. What happened? The Calabreses hit one of the Volkovs' warehouses an hour ago, burned it to the ground, killed 8 people. He replayed the footage, flames, gunfire, bodies dropping. Dmitri's calling it an act of war. Is he asking for help? Not yet, but he will. Marcus closed the laptop. Question is whether we give it to him. Elena lowered herself into a chair, her back screaming. What are the options? We stay out of it, let them destroy each other, pick up the pieces after. Or we back the Volkovs, show strength, maybe prevent a bigger war. Or we back the Calabreses and take the Volkovs' territory ourselves. Marcus looked at her. That's a third option, yes. Which one are you leaning toward? I don't know yet. That's why I'm asking you. She thought about it, running through scenarios, weighing outcomes. The baby shifted inside her, uncomfortable, running out of room. 4 more weeks. Maybe 3 if he came early like the doctor kept warning. We need more information, she said finally. Who started this? Was it really the Calabreses making a move, or did the Volkovs provoke them? Does it matter? It matters for what comes next. If the Calabreses are the aggressors, we can justify backing the Volkovs. If the Volkovs started it, helping them makes us look weak. How do we find out? I'll ask them. Elena, you can't. I can. The Calabreses don't see me as a threat. I'm just the pregnant wife. She struggled to her feet. Set up a meeting. Today. Neutral ground. You're due in a month, which means I don't have time to waste. She moved to the door, her body heavy and awkward. Make the call, Marcus. He did. By noon, Elena was sitting in a restaurant the Calabreses owned, across from Antonio Calabrese's nephew, a lean, sharp-eyed man in his early 30s named Nico. He'd brought 2 bodyguards. She'd come alone. Mrs. Hale. Nico stood when she approached, pulled out her chair. I was surprised to get this call. I'm sure you were. She sat carefully, her stomach nearly touching the table. Thank you for seeing me. Of course. Though I have to ask, does your husband know you're here? He knows. She accepted a glass of water from the waiter. I'm here to understand what happened last night. What happened is the Volkovs have been encroaching on our territory for months. We warned them. They ignored us. So we sent a message. By killing 8 people. By reminding them there are consequences. Nico leaned back. I'm not trying to start a war, Mrs. Hale. I'm trying to prevent one. The Volkovs think because they have your husband's favor, they can do whatever they want. I'm showing them they're wrong. And if they retaliate? Then we'll respond, and it will escalate. He paused. Unless someone with influence convinces them to back down. There it was. The ask underneath the conversation. You want me to talk to the Volkovs? I want you to tell your husband that supporting them in this would be a mistake. They're the aggressors here, not us. We're just defending what's ours. And if I tell him that, what do we get? My gratitude, my loyalty, and a promise that when the dust settles, we'll remember who helped us and who didn't. Elena studied him. Nico Calabrese was young, ambitious, probably too smart for his own good. He was also right. The Volkovs had been pushing boundaries, testing limits, seeing what they could get away with. Marcus had let it slide because he'd been distracted, first with Livia, then with Victor, then with her pregnancy. But that didn't mean Nico was trustworthy. I'll talk to my husband, she said, but I'm not making any promises. Fair enough. Nico signaled the waiter. Can I get you anything? You must be hungry. I'm always hungry. I'm 8 months pregnant. He smiled. My sister just had her second. She said the last month was the worst. Your sister's right. Elena accepted a menu. How's she doing? Tired, happy, terrified. He laughed. All the normal things. They spent the next hour talking about babies and families and things that had nothing to do with warehouses or bodies or territory. It was strange sitting across from a man whose people had just killed 8 others, discussing nursery colors and sleep schedules. But that was this world, violence and domesticity, running on parallel tracks that sometimes intersected in ways that left you dizzy. When she finally left, Nico walked her to her car. Mrs. Hale, one more thing. She turned. Yes? I heard about what happened with Victor Rains and your sister. He met her eyes. I just want you to know, I respect how you handled it. A lot of people would have burned everything down. You were smarter. Thank you. And if you ever need anything at all, you call me, directly. He handed her a card with a number written on it. Not as a business favor, as someone who understands what it's like to be underestimated. She took the card, slipped it into her purse. I'll keep that in mind. Driving back to the penthouse, she called Marcus. "How'd it go?" he asked. "He's smart, dangerous, but not unreasonable." She navigated through traffic, one hand on the wheel, the other on her stomach. "The Volkovs started this. They've been pushing into Calabrese territory for months. Dmitri said they were expanding into unclaimed areas. Dmitri lied. I saw the maps. They knew exactly what they were doing." She pulled into the parking garage. "If we back them, we're supporting the aggressors. That sets a bad precedent. And if we back the Calabreses, we send a message that loyalty matters more than history, that we're not going to protect people who lie to us." She parked, killed the engine. "But we don't back them openly. We stay neutral publicly and let it play out. That's a gamble. Everything's a gamble." She got out of the car, her movements slow and ungainly. "But Nico Calabrese is building something, and I'd rather have him as an ally than an enemy." Marcus met her at the elevator. "You trust him?" "I trust that he's ambitious and smart enough not to make stupid mistakes. That's more than I can say for Dmitry Volkov." "All right, we stay neutral." He pressed the button for the penthouse. "But if this blows up, it won't. The Volkovs will either back down or get crushed, and either way, we're positioned to benefit." The elevator climbed, her ears popping. "Trust me." "I do. That's what worries me." She looked at him, this man who'd betrayed her, who'd nearly destroyed everything, who was now taking orders from her because she'd proven herself more ruthless and strategic than he'd ever imagined. "Why does it worry you?" "Because you're better at this than I am, and eventually you're not going to need me anymore." The elevator doors opened. She stepped out into the penthouse, into the space that had once felt like a prison and now felt like a war room. "That's not true. I'll always need you." "For what?" "To be the face, the threat, the one everyone's afraid of." She turned to face him. "I can see 3 moves ahead, Marcus. But you're the one who can pull the trigger without hesitating. We need both." "Is that all I am to you now? The trigger man?" She thought about lying, about saying something kind, but they were past that. "That's all either of us are to each other now, and you know what? That's enough." He nodded slowly. "Yeah. Okay." The Volkov-Calabrese situation played out exactly as Elena predicted. The Volkovs tried to retaliate, hit another Calabrese holding, but this time they were ready. 3 Volkov soldiers ended up dead, and Dmitri finally called Marcus, desperate. "I need help," Dmitri said, his voice crackling through the speakerphone in Marcus's office. Elena sat across the desk, 38 weeks now, so pregnant she could barely walk. "The Calabreses are going to wipe us out." "You started this," Marcus said. "That's not... We were just expanding. You lied to me about whose territory you were pushing into. You made me look stupid." Marcus's voice was flat. "Why would I help you now?" "Because we have history. Because we've been loyal to you for years." "Have you?" Elena leaned forward. "Or have you just been using us as cover while you built your own empire?" Silence on the other end. Then, "Mrs. Hale, I didn't realize you were listening." "I'm always listening, Dmitri. That's my job." She picked up the financial records she'd compiled. "You've been hiding income from us, skimming percentages off shipments we arranged. You bought properties under shell companies, so we wouldn't know how much you were actually worth. Those are private investments. Nothing's private when you're in business with my husband. You know that." She set the papers down. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pull back from Calabrese territory. You're going to pay us the money you've been hiding, all of it, and you're going to accept whatever terms the Calabreses offer for peace." They'll take everything. "Not everything, just enough to hurt. Think of it as a lesson in honesty." Elena stood, her back protesting. "You have 24 hours to decide. After that, we stop taking your calls." She hung up before he could respond. Marcus looked at her. "That was harsh. That was necessary. We can't have people thinking they can lie to us without consequences. The Volkovs have been with us for a long time, and they've been stealing from us for just as long." She moved to the window, looked out at the city. Somewhere down there, Dmitri was probably panicking, calling his brothers, trying to figure a way out. There wasn't one. She'd made sure of that. They'll agree. They don't have a choice. And the Calabreses? We'll take their pound of flesh and remember we didn't stop them. She pressed a hand to her lower back. We come out of this stronger. That's all that matters. The baby kicked hard, like he agreed. Or disagreed. She couldn't tell anymore. That night her water broke. She was in the kitchen, making tea she wasn't supposed to drink, when she felt the warm rush down her legs. For a second she just stood there, staring at the puddle on the marble floor. Then a contraction hit, sharp and mean, and she grabbed the counter. "Marcus!" He appeared in seconds, took one look at her and went pale. "Is it?" "Yes. Call the doctor. Now." The next hours were a blur of pain and chaos. The private hospital, the delivery room, Marcus holding her hand while she cursed him for doing this to her. The doctor saying things about dilation and pushing and crowning that she barely heard over the noise in her own head. Then, finally, a cry. High and indignant and alive. "It's a boy," the doctor said, placing the tiny screaming thing on her chest. "Congratulations!" Elena looked down at her son, red-faced, furious, perfect, and felt something crack open inside her that she'd thought was sealed forever. He was real. He was here. He was hers. "Adrian," she whispered. "His name is Adrian." Marcus touched the baby's head with one finger, his hand shaking. "He's beautiful. He's a mess." But she was crying, couldn't stop, all the grief and rage and fear of the past months pouring out in a way she hadn't let herself feel. "He's perfect." They gave her Adrian to hold while they stitched her up, and she counted his fingers and toes, memorized his face, whispered promises she didn't know if she could keep. She'd protect him. She'd teach him to survive. She'd make sure he grew up stronger and smarter and better than any of them. Marcus stood beside the bed, watching them both like he was afraid they might disappear. "Elena, don't." She didn't look up from Adrian's face. "Whatever you're about to say, just don't." I was just going to say thank you." That made her look. Marcus's eyes were wet, his expression raw in a way she'd never seen. "For what?" "For this. For him. For not leaving me when you should have." He touched her hand, the one not holding the baby. "I know I don't deserve it. Any of it." "No, you don't." She let him hold her hand anyway. "But he deserves a father, so you're going to be one. A real one." "I will. I promise." "Promises don't mean anything, Marcus. Only actions do." She shifted Adrian, who'd stopped crying and was staring at her with unfocused eyes. "You're going to prove it, every day, for the rest of his life." "I will." "Good." They kept her in the hospital for 2 days, monitoring her and Adrian, making sure they were both healthy. Marcus stayed the entire time, sleeping in a chair by her bed, bringing her food she wasn't supposed to eat, holding Adrian when she needed to sleep. On the 3rd day, she was discharged. They drove home through the city, Adrian asleep in his car seat, the world looking different somehow. Sharper. More dangerous. Every car was a potential threat. Every person a possible enemy. She'd brought a life into this city of blood and money, and now she had to keep it safe. At the penthouse, Marcus had hired a night nurse, a stern woman in her 50s who took one look at Adrian and smiled. "Beautiful baby, you're both very lucky." "Thank you," Elena said. "I'll be here from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. You'll want to rest when you can." The nurse took Adrian from Marcus with practiced ease. "I'll set him up in the nursery." After she left, Elena stood in the middle of the living room, her body sore and exhausted, her mind racing. "I can't believe he's here." "Neither can I." Marcus poured himself a drink, offered her one out of habit, remembered she was nursing. "Sorry." "It's fine. I'll have one in a few months." She sat on the couch, her body grateful for anything soft. "We need to make some changes." "Like what?" "Security. I want cameras everywhere. I want armed guards at every entrance. I want to know who's coming and going at all times." She looked at him. "I want Adrian protected like he's the most valuable thing in this building." "He is." "Then prove it. Upgrade everything. Hire more people. I don't care what it costs." "Done." Marcus sat beside her. "What else?" "I want us to move on the Volkov's territory. They're weak now, distracted. The Calabreses took a chunk, but there's more to grab. You just had a baby. So? So you should be resting, not planning takeovers. I can do both. She leaned her head back, closed her eyes. The world doesn't stop because I'm on maternity leave, Marcus. If anything, people will think we're vulnerable. We need to show them we're not. All right, I'll make some calls. And I want to meet with Nico Calabrese again, soon. Why? Because he's consolidating power, and I want to make sure we're on the right side of it. She opened her eyes. He's going to be a major player in this city. Better to work with him than against him. Marcus studied her. You like him? I respect him. There's a difference. Is there? She didn't answer. Upstairs, Adrian started crying, and the nurse's soft voice crooned something soothing. Elena's body responded automatically, her milk letting down, her instincts screaming at her to go to him. But she stayed on the couch, forcing herself to let the nurse handle it. I need to learn to trust other people with him, she said quietly. I can't be there every second. You can try. No, I can't. Not if I'm going to do what needs to be done. She stood, her body protesting. I'm going to check on him. You make those calls. Upstairs, the nursery was soft and quiet, decorated in whites and grays, nothing too childish. Adrian was in the nurse's arms, still fussing, his little face scrunched up. When Elena came in, the nurse smiled. He's just hungry. Do you want to feed him? Yes. She took Adrian, settled into the rocking chair, and got him latched. The pain was sharp at first, then settled into something manageable. He nursed greedily, his tiny hand clutching her finger, and she felt that crack in her chest widen. This was what she was fighting for. Not power, not money, not revenge. This little person who didn't know yet how broken the world was, who trusted her completely to keep him safe. She'd kill anyone who tried to hurt him. She'd burn the whole city down if she had to. The nurse left them alone, and Elena sat there in the dim light, watching Adrian's eyes drift closed, feeling his breathing slow. When he was done, she burped him, changed him, laid him in his crib. He didn't wake, just settled into sleep like it was easy. She stood over the crib for a long time, memorizing the curve of his cheek, the way his fingers curled, the soft sound of his breathing. Then she went back downstairs to plan the next move. Marcus was on the phone, his voice low and urgent. She caught fragments: territory, timeline, response. When he hung up, he looked tired. The Volkovs are caving. They're pulling back from Calabrese territory and offering us 20% of their eastern operations as payment for the money they hid. Make it 30. Elena, they lied to us, stole from us, and put us in a bad position with the Calabreses. 20% isn't enough. She sat across from him. Make it 30, or we cut them loose completely. He made the call. 10 minutes later, it was done. 30%. Happy? Marcus asked. Getting there. She checked her phone. 3 a.m. Adrian would be up again in a few hours, and she should sleep, but her mind was too wired. Set up that meeting with Nico for next week. You sure you'll be ready? I'll be ready. She was. A week after giving birth, she met Nico at the same restaurant, wearing a dress that hid the fact that her body was still recovering, that she was exhausted and sore and leaking milk every few hours. The nurse was home with Adrian. Marcus was handling something at the docks. This was hers. Nico stood when she arrived, concern flashing across his face. Mrs. Hale, congratulations on the baby. Should you be out already? Probably not, but here I am. She sat carefully. Thank you for meeting me. Of course, though I have to admit I'm curious why. Because the landscape's changing, and I want to make sure we're on the same page. She accepted coffee from the waiter, even though she wasn't supposed to have it. 1 cup wouldn't hurt. You took territory from the Volkovs. We took a cut of their operations. Everyone's repositioning. And you want to know where I fit into your plans. I want to know if we're going to be allies or obstacles. She sipped the coffee, felt the caffeine hit her bloodstream. I'd prefer allies. So would I. Nico leaned forward. I'm not trying to challenge your husband's position. I'm just trying to build something for my family. I know. But in this city, building something usually means taking from someone else. I want to make sure that someone else isn't us. It won't be. You have my word. Words are cheap, Nico. Actions matter. She pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. The Volkovs are weak now. Their northern operations are barely functioning. If you wanted to expand, that's where I'd look. He opened the folder, scanned the documents inside, maps, financial records, intelligence she'd gathered over the past month. His eyebrows rose. This is everything. I know. I'm giving it to you as a gesture of good faith. She met his eyes. Take the Northern Territory. Absorb what's left of the Volkov operations there. In exchange, you stay out of our southern interests. That's more than generous. It's strategic. The Volkovs are finished. Better you take their scraps than someone we don't know. She paused. And when you're established, when you've built what you're trying to build, we'll talk about partnership, real partnership. Nico closed the folder. Why are you doing this? Because I'm tired of putting out fires. I'd rather build something stable, something that lasts. She thought of Adrian sleeping at home, oblivious to the deals being made in his name. I have a son now. I want him to inherit an empire, not a war zone. I understand that. Nico extended his hand. You have a deal, Mrs. Hale. She shook it. His grip was firm, respectful. Call me Elena. Elena, he smiled. And you can call me Nico. They spent another hour talking logistics, timelines, how to handle the transition without triggering more violence. By the time she left, she had what she needed. A new ally, a buffer against chaos, and a clearer path forward. Driving home, her phone rang. Marcus. How'd it go? He asked. We have an alliance. Nico's taking the Volkov's northern territory. We keep the south. Everyone wins. Just like that? Just like that. She turned onto their street. I told you he was smart. You're the smart one. A pause. How are you feeling? Tired, sore, but good. She pulled into the garage. How's Adrian? Perfect. He just ate and went back to sleep. The nurse says he's an easy baby. There's no such thing. We're just getting lucky. She got out of the car, her body moving slower than she wanted. I'll be up in a minute. In the elevator, she caught her reflection in the polished doors. She looked like hell, circles under her eyes, her hair a mess, her body soft and swollen from pregnancy. But her eyes were sharp, calculating. The woman who'd walked into her childhood bedroom on Christmas Eve was gone. This version was harder, colder, more dangerous. She didn't mourn the loss. She'd needed to become this to survive. Upstairs, she checked on Adrian first. He was asleep in his crib, one arm flung over his head, perfect and peaceful. She touched his cheek gently, whispered, I'm building you a kingdom, baby. Just hold on. Then she went to find Marcus, to tell him about the new world order they were creating, one deal and one body at a time. The empire was shifting, power consolidating, lines being redrawn, and Elena Hale was the one holding the pen. Adrian was 3 months old when the text came from the unknown number. Elena was on the floor of the nursery, trying to convince him that tummy time wasn't torture, when her phone buzzed. She's in the hospital, complications. The baby didn't make it. Elena stared at the screen, her heart stopping. She knew immediately who it was about. Livia. She texted back. Where? Sydney. St. Vincent's. She's asking for you. Adrian started fussing, his face turning red. Elena picked him up, held him against her shoulder, her mind racing. Livia had made it to Australia. Had the baby. Lost the baby. And now she was alone in a foreign hospital, asking for the sister who'd exiled her. Marcus came into the nursery, his tie loosened, looking exhausted from whatever meeting he'd just finished. Everything okay? No. She showed him the message. Livia's baby died. His expression didn't change. That's unfortunate. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? I'm sorry? I'm not. He sat in the rocking chair. She made her choices. She's still my sister. You said she wasn't. On New Year's Eve, you said she wasn't your sister anymore. Elena looked down at Adrian, at his perfect little face, his eyes that were starting to turn the same gray as hers. I know what I said. Then why do you care? Because I have a son now, and I know what it feels like to be terrified for him every second of every day. She touched Adrian's soft hair. I can't imagine losing him. I can't imagine being alone in a hospital in a country where I don't know anyone dealing with that. So what are you going to do? I don't know yet. She spent the rest of the day thinking about it, running through options. She could ignore it, Let Livia handle her grief alone. That would be the smart move, the safe move. Or she could reach out, offer some kind of support, knowing it would complicate everything. By evening, she'd made her decision. She called the number that had texted her. A woman answered. Hello? This is Elena Hale. You contacted me about my sister. Yes, I'm Rachel. I'm a social worker at the hospital. The woman's voice was gentle, professional. Livia listed you as her emergency contact. She had a stillbirth 3 days ago. The baby was full term, but there were complications during delivery. Elena closed her eyes. How is she? Physically, she's recovering. Emotionally, she's devastated. She won't talk to anyone except to ask for you. A pause. I know it's a lot to ask, but if you could call her, it might help. Put her on. There was rustling, footsteps, then Livia's voice, small and broken. Elena? I'm here. Livia started crying immediately, harsh sobs that hurt to hear. She died. My baby girl died. They said her heart just stopped. There was nothing they could do, and I held her, Elena. I held my dead baby, and she was so small and perfect, and I know. I'm sorry. Elena's throat tightened. I'm so sorry, Livia. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to... Another sob. I'm all alone here, and I can't breathe. Listen to me. You're going to breathe. You're going to get through this. Elena kept her voice steady, even as her own eyes filled. You're stronger than you think. I'm not. I'm not strong. I'm nothing. That's not true. Yes, it is. I destroyed everything. I hurt you. I hurt Marcus. I helped a man who tried to kill people, and now my baby's dead, and it's punishment, isn't it? For what I did. No. Elena said it firmly. No, Livia. Babies don't die as punishment. They just die sometimes. It's awful and unfair, but it's not your fault. Then why does it feel like it is? Elena didn't have an answer for that. She looked at Adrian, sleeping peacefully in his bassinet, and felt a wave of guilt so strong it almost knocked her over. Her son lived. Livia's daughter didn't. There was no fairness in that, no justice, just random chance and biology. What do you need? Elena asked finally. I don't know. I can't be alone right now. You're not alone. I'm here. Even if it was just a voice on the phone, even if it was all she could offer. I'm here, okay? They talked for another hour, mostly Elena listening while Livia cried and talked about the pregnancy, the birth, the moment the doctor's face changed and she knew something was wrong. When Livia finally exhausted herself into silence, Elena heard Rachel's voice in the background. She needs to rest, Rachel said quietly. Take care of her, Elena said. Please. I will. The call ended. Elena sat in the dark nursery, holding her sleeping son, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on her. Marcus appeared in the doorway. How is she? Broken. Elena stood, laid Adrian in his crib. Her daughter was stillborn, full term. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Are you going to bring her back? No, she can't come back. That hasn't changed. Elena pulled a blanket over Adrian. But I'm going to make sure she's taken care of. Money, therapy, whatever she needs. That's more than she deserves. Maybe, but it's what I can live with. She turned to face him. You can hate her all you want, Marcus. I do too most days, but I won't let her suffer alone through this. Even after what she did? Even after. Elena moved past him into the hallway. I'm going to set up an account for her, enough to live on, pay for counseling, start over, again. You know she'll just screw it up. Probably, but at least I'll know I tried. She spent the next day arranging it, a trust fund that would pay Livia a monthly stipend, enough to live comfortably, but not extravagantly. Money for therapy, for medical care, for whatever she needed to rebuild. She also hired Rachel as a private case manager, paying her to check on Livia, make sure she was okay, report back weekly. It was more than generous. It was probably stupid. But it was also the only way Elena could sleep at night. When she told Marcus what she'd done, he just shook his head. You're too soft. No, I'm just not as hard as you. She poured herself coffee, her first cup in months. She'd stopped nursing last week, switched Adrian to formula. Her body was slowly becoming hers again. There's a difference. Is there? You'll kill someone without blinking. I'll make sure they're taken care of after I destroy them. She sipped the coffee, bitter and perfect. Both are necessary. He didn't argue. Maybe he was finally learning. The weeks passed. Adrian grew, started smiling, started sleeping longer stretches. Elena went back to work, if you could call it that. She attended meetings, made decisions, ran the empire from the penthouse while the night nurse watched Adrian. Marcus handled the street-level operations, the violence, the parts that required his particular skills. They functioned like a machine, efficient and cold. The Volkov situation resolved itself quietly. Dmitri and his brothers sold off their remaining territory and left the city, moving south where they could start over without Elena and Marcus's shadow hanging over them. Nico Calabrese absorbed their northern holdings like she'd suggested, consolidating power, becoming exactly the ally she'd predicted. "You should run for office," Nico joked during one of their monthly lunches. "You're better at politics than half the city council." "I'm better at politics than all of them," Elena corrected, "but I prefer working behind the scenes." "Why?" "Because power's more effective when people don't see it coming." She cut into her steak. "You should remember that." "I will," he smiled. "Your son's doing well?" "Growing like crazy, eating constantly. Marcus thinks he's going to be tall." "Marcus talks about him?" "Constantly. It's actually kind of annoying." But she said it with something that might have been fondness. Marcus had become obsessed with Adrian, checking on him multiple times a day, buying ridiculous toys, reading parenting books. It was strange seeing him like this, soft in ways she'd never imagined. "That's good," Nico said. "Family matters, especially in this business." "Speaking of family, how's your sister, the one who just had a baby?" "Exhausted, but happy. Her husband's useless, so she's basically doing everything herself." He paused. "Not unlike you, I'd imagine." Marcus helps more than you'd think." It was true. He changed diapers, did midnight feedings, walked Adrian around the penthouse when he was fussy. "He's trying. Trying to make up for things?" Elena met Nico's eyes. He knew. Of course he knew. Everyone in this world knew about Marcus and Livia, about the affair, about New Year's Eve. Secrets didn't exist when you ran an empire. "Something like that," she said. "Is it working?" "Some days." She sipped her wine. "Other days I still want to kill him." Nico laughed. "Honest, I like that." They talked business for another hour. Shipments, territories, the new players trying to move into the city. Nico had intelligence about a crew from the West Coast looking to establish operations, and Elena promised to look into it. When they parted, he kissed her cheek, a gesture that felt more friendly than threatening. Driving home, her phone rang. Rachel, from Australia. "How is she?" Elena answered. "Better? She started therapy, started eating again. She's even talking about going back to school." Rachel sounded cautiously optimistic. "Whatever you said to her that first night, it helped." "I just listened. That's more than most people would have done." A pause. "She asks about you sometimes. About the baby." "What do you tell her?" "That he's healthy, that you're doing well. She seems happy for you, in a sad kind of way." Elena didn't know how to feel about that. "Tell her—" She stopped, unsure what message to send. "Tell her I'm glad she's getting better." "I will." After Rachel hung up, Elena sat in the parking garage for a long time, the engine off, just thinking. Livia was healing, Adrian was thriving, the empire was stable, everything should have felt perfect, but it didn't. Something was off, some pressure building she couldn't quite identify. She found out what it was 2 weeks later. Marcus came home early from a meeting, his face tight with controlled rage. Elena was on the couch with Adrian, reading him a book about animals that he was too young to understand but seemed to enjoy anyway. "We have a problem," Marcus said. She set the book down. "What kind of problem?" "The kind that involves your mother calling me, crying, saying your father's been arrested." Elena's blood went cold. "For what?" "Tax evasion, money laundering, conspiracy." Marcus sat across from her. "The feds raided their house this morning, took computers, files, everything." That's impossible. Dad's been retired for 5 years. Apparently not retired enough. Marcus pulled up something on his phone, showed her. A news article with her father's photo, the headline screaming about crime family connections, decades of illegal activity. They've been building a case for years. Today they finally moved. Elena read through the article, her hands shaking. Her father, the man who'd taught her to ride a bike, who'd walked her down the aisle, was facing 20 years in federal prison. What do we do? Nothing. We stay away from it. Any connection between us and this case makes us targets too. He's my father. He's also a liability now. Marcus's voice was hard. You help him, you risk everything we've built, everything Adrian will inherit. Elena looked at her son, babbling happily on her lap, oblivious to the fact that his grandfather might die in prison. I can't just abandon him. You have to, for Adrian's sake. No. She stood, handed Adrian to Marcus. I have to at least talk to him. Elena, this isn't up for debate. She called her lawyer, arranged a visit to the detention center where they were holding her father. The next day, she drove there alone, leaving Adrian with the nurse, ignoring Marcus's warnings that she was making a mistake. Her father looked old. That was her first thought when they brought him into the visiting room. He'd aged a decade in a week, his face gray, his hands shaking as he picked up the phone on his side of the glass partition. Elena, you shouldn't have come. I had to. She pressed her hand to the glass. Dad, what happened? They've been watching me for years. I thought I'd covered everything, but I missed something. One account, one transaction. He laughed bitterly. 25 years of being careful, and I screwed up once. We'll get you a lawyer. The best one. We'll fight this. No, you won't. His voice was firm. You're going to stay away from this. You and Marcus both. I can't just... Yes, you can. You have a son now, Elena. You have responsibilities that matter more than saving an old man who made his choices. He touched the glass where her hand was. I'm proud of you, what you've become, how strong you are. But you can't fix this. Dad, promise me. Promise you'll stay away. She wanted to argue, to fight, to tell him she'd burn the whole system down to get him out. But looking at his face, seeing the resignation there, she knew he was right. Helping him would expose her, expose Marcus, expose Adrian to risks they couldn't afford. I promise, she whispered. Good girl. He smiled, sad and tired. Take care of your mother for me. She's going to need you. The visit ended. Elena drove home crying so hard she had to pull over twice to collect herself. By the time she got to the penthouse, her eyes were red and swollen, her face blotchy. Marcus took one look at her and pulled her into his arms. She let him, too exhausted to maintain the distance they'd been keeping. He held her while she cried, didn't say anything, just stood there being solid while she fell apart. When she finally stopped, he said, I'm sorry. For what? For everything. For your father, for Livia, for all of it. He pulled back to look at her. You shouldn't have to carry this alone. I'm not alone. I have you. It was the first time in months she'd admitted that, acknowledged that he was still her partner, however broken that partnership was. Yes, you do. That night, after Adrian was asleep, after the nurse had gone home, Elena and Marcus sat on the balcony drinking whiskey and looking at the city. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Sometimes silence was enough. Your father's going to plead guilty, Marcus said eventually. His lawyer called. They're offering him 12 years if he cooperates. Cooperates with what? Giving up names, connections, operations. Marcus swirled his glass. They want him to flip on everyone he knows. Will he too? No, he's old school. He'll take the time. A pause. But 12 years at his age might as well be a life sentence. Elena felt that crack in her chest widen again, the one that had opened when Adrian was born. Her father would die in prison. She'd never introduce Adrian to his grandfather, all because of choices made long before she was born, consequences that caught up decades later. I hate this, she said. I know. I hate that we can't fix it. I hate that trying would destroy us. I hate that I have to choose between my father and my son. She drained her glass. I hate all of it. Then why do we do this? Why do we stay in this world? She thought about it, looking out at the city lights, the empire they'd built and maintained through blood and calculation. Because we're good at it. Because Adrian deserves security. Because we don't know how to be anything else. Do you ever wish we were different people? Normal people? Every day. She looked at him. Do you? Yeah, sometimes I imagine what it would have been like if I'd met you before all this. If we could have just been two people who fell in love without empires and territory and bodies. He refilled their glasses. But that's not who we are. No, it's not. They sat there until the sky started lightening, until the city woke up and the night shift guards changed over and reality returned. Then they went inside, checked on Adrian, and prepared for another day of running an empire they couldn't leave. Elena's mother came to stay with them a week later, lost and grieving in ways that made Elena's chest ache. They set her up in the guest room, made sure she ate, let her hold Adrian for hours while she cried about the husband she'd loved for 40 years. I knew what he did, her mother said one afternoon. They were in the nursery, Adrian asleep between them. I always knew. I just pretended I didn't. Why? Because the truth was too hard. Because I loved him anyway. Because once you're in this world, you can't get out. She touched Adrian's hand. You understand that now, don't you? Yes. I'm sorry you do. Her mother looked at her with something like pity. I wanted better for you. I know, Mom. But you're stronger than I ever was. You'll survive this. All of it. She stood, kissed Elena's forehead. Your father was right to be proud of you. The trial happened fast. Her father pled guilty, got his 12 years, disappeared into the federal system. Elena didn't attend the sentencing. Marcus went instead, sat in the back of the courtroom, came home and told her it was done. How'd he look? Resigned, but not broken. Marcus loosened his tie. He asked me to take care of you. What'd you say? I said I'd try, that it was harder than it looked. He almost smiled. He laughed. Elena's mother moved out a month later, into a smaller place closer to the prison where her father was being held. She visited him every week, brought him books and letters, maintained the relationship despite the glass and the guards and the impossibility of it all. Love makes you stupid, Marcus said, watching her go. Yeah, Elena agreed. It does. Adrian turned 6 months old. He started sitting up, started eating solid foods, started reaching for things with purpose and determination. Elena watched him develop, watched him become a person, and felt the weight of every decision she'd ever made pressing down. This was who she was doing it for, this little person who laughed when she made faces, who grabbed her hair with his chubby fists, who had no idea yet how broken his family was. She'd protect him from all of it, the violence, the betrayal, the compromises that eroded your soul one piece at a time. Or she'd try to, at least. Maybe that's all any parent could do. Try to be better than the generation before, knowing you'd probably fail but doing it anyway. He looks like you, Marcus said one evening. They were both watching Adrian play with blocks on the floor, stacking them and knocking them down over and over. He has your mouth, but your eyes, and your determination. Look at him. He's not going to stop until he gets those blocks stacked. It was true. Adrian was focused in a way that reminded her of herself, single-minded and stubborn. We're going to have our hands full when he's older. Good. Better he fights than rolls over. Marcus picked up a fallen block, handed it to Adrian. The world's going to try to break him. We need to make sure it can't. How do we do that? We teach him to be smart, strategic. We teach him that power comes from thinking 3 moves ahead, not from firing first. Marcus looked at her. We teach him to be like you. Not you. I'm the muscle. You're the brain. He needs both. But if he can only have one, it should be yours. Marcus said it simply, like it was obvious. You're the one who saved us, multiple times. He should learn from that. It was the closest Marcus had come to admitting she was running things now. That somewhere in this past year the power had shifted, and she'd become the strategist while he became the enforcer. They were partners still, but not equals. Not anymore. All right, she said, we'll teach him together. How to survive, how to win, how to build something that lasts, and maybe how to be better than us. Maybe. She picked up Adrian, held him close. But first we have to make sure he grows up at all. Because that was the reality of their world. Nothing was guaranteed. Not safety, not tomorrow, not the future they were building. Every day was a calculated risk, every decision a potential disaster. But they'd survived this long. Through betrayal and violence and loss and grief, they'd survived. And they'd keep surviving because that's what they did. That's what they'd taught themselves to do. And now they'd teach Adrian the same. Adrian's first birthday fell on a cold December morning, exactly 1 year and 3 weeks after Elena had walked into that bedroom and watched her world collapse. She stood in the penthouse kitchen making pancakes, badly because cooking had never been her skill, while Adrian banged a wooden spoon against his high chair tray, and Marcus read the newspaper at the table. It looked almost normal, almost like a real family, doing real family things. "The Calabreses are hosting a New Year's party," Marcus said, not looking up from the paper. "Nico sent an invitation. Are we going? Do you want to?" Elena flipped a pancake, watched it land crooked in the pan. "Last New Year's Eve, we killed a man on a balcony and dismantled a coup. I'm not sure I'm ready for another party." "Fair point." Marcus set down the paper, though I doubt Nico's planning anything that dramatic. "With our luck, someone will still try to kill us." She slid the pancake onto a plate, started another one. "But, yeah, we should go. Show unity, maintain the alliance, all that. You like him. I respect him. There's still a difference." "Is there?" Marcus's tone was careful, probing. "Because you have lunch with him once a month. You call him when you need advice. You gave him half the Volkov territory." Elena turned to face him. "Are you asking me something, Marcus?" "I'm asking if there's something I should know about." "There isn't. Nico's an ally. A friend, maybe. But that's all." She held his gaze. "I don't cheat, Marcus. That's your specialty." He flinched. "Good. He should." I didn't mean..." "Yes, you did. You were asking if I was sleeping with him. The answer's no." She poured more batter into the pan. "But even if I was, what right would you have to complain?" "None. You're right. I'm sorry." Adrian threw his spoon on the floor, laughed when it clattered. Elena picked it up, handed it back to him, kissed his sticky forehead. 1 year old. It felt impossible. The year had been the longest and shortest of her life. Endless nights, brutal days, but somehow also gone in a blink. "We should do something for his birthday," she said. "Just us. No business, no meetings, just family." "What did you have in mind?" "I don't know. The park? The aquarium?" She laughed at herself. "He's one. He'll be happy with a cardboard box." "Then let's give him a cardboard box and take him to the park." Marcus stood, came over to where she was burning pancakes. "And Elena? I'm sorry for asking that. For everything. I know you are." She didn't look at him. "It doesn't fix anything, but I know." They took Adrian to the park that afternoon, bundled him up against the cold, pushed him on the baby swings while he shrieked with delight. Normal parents doing normal things, except for the 2 armed guards following at a discreet distance, and the fact that Marcus's phone rang every 20 minutes with emergencies that needed handling. On the 3rd call, Elena took the phone from him. "Unless someone's actively dying, they can wait until tomorrow." "Elena, it's our son's birthday. They can handle 1 afternoon without you." She powered off the phone, handed it back. "Now push him on the swing and pretend we're normal for 5 minutes." He did. And for those 5 minutes, watching Marcus push Adrian while their son laughed and grabbed at falling leaves, Elena let herself imagine what it would be like if they really were normal. If Marcus sold insurance or managed a restaurant or did anything that didn't involve guns and territory and the constant calculation of threat. But the fantasy couldn't hold. By the time they got home, Marcus's other phone had 37 messages, and reality crashed back in. "I have to handle this," he said, already dialing. "I know." Elena took Adrian from his stroller, carried him upstairs. "We're going to give you a bath, buddy. Make you smell less like outside." She bathed Adrian, got him into pajamas, read him 3 books while he fought sleep with the determination of someone who knew he was missing something good. When he finally crashed, she stood over his crib for a long time, just watching him breathe. 1 year. They'd kept him alive and safe for 1 year. In their world, that was something close to a miracle. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nico. "Happy birthday to Adrian. Hope you're all celebrating. She typed back, "We are. Thank you. The invitation's real, by the way. No ulterior motives, just a party. We'll be there. Good. I'll make sure the balcony's off limits." She smiled despite herself. Nico had a dark sense of humor that matched hers. It was part of why she liked him. He understood the world they lived in, didn't pretend it was anything other than what it was. Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay?" "Fine. Just Nico wishing Adrian happy birthday." "That's nice of him." Marcus's tone was neutral, but Elena heard the edge underneath. "Marcus, stop." "Stop what?" "Being jealous of someone who's just a friend." She moved past him into the hallway. "You don't get to be jealous anymore. You lost that right." I know, but I still am." "Then deal with it, because I'm not changing how I operate to make you feel better." She went downstairs, poured herself wine. "I'm building something here. Alliances, networks, systems that will protect Adrian when he's older. Nico's part of that. So are a lot of other people. You can either trust me or not, but you can't control who I talk to." Marcus followed her down, poured his own drink. "You're right. I'm sorry. You apologize a lot now. I have a lot to apologize for." They stood in the kitchen drinking in silence, the space between them familiar and strange all at once. This was what their marriage had become. Functional partnership, co-parenting, occasional moments of honesty, followed by long stretches of careful distance. "Do you think we'll ever get back to how we were?" Marcus asked quietly. "No, that's gone." Elena set down her glass. "But maybe we can build something new, something better." Better how?" "More honest, more equal, more focused on what actually matters." She looked at him. "I don't love you the way I used to, Marcus. I probably never will again. But I respect what we're building together, and I think that might be enough." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, okay. I can work with that." The week before New Year's Eve, Elena got a call from Rachel. "How's Livia?" Elena asked, expecting the usual update about therapy appointments and job applications. "That's why I'm calling. She's planning to come back to the city." Elena's stomach dropped. "What?" "She says she needs closure. She wants to see you, talk to you face to face." Rachel sounded worried. "I tried to talk her out of it, but she's determined." "When?" "She's flying out tomorrow. She'll be there by the weekend." Elena hung up and immediately called Marcus. "We have a problem." By the time Livia landed, Elena had already prepared. She'd arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a hotel conference room, guards outside, no witnesses. She'd also made it clear to Marcus that he wasn't invited. "This is between me and her," Elena said. "You being there will just make it worse." "What if she tries something?" "She won't. She's not stupid." Elena checked her reflection, made sure she looked composed, in control. "She just wants to talk." "And you're going to let her?" "I'm going to listen. There's a difference." She grabbed her coat. "Stay with Adrian. I'll be back in a few hours." The hotel was downtown, anonymous and clean. Elena arrived early, sat in the conference room, and waited. When Livia walked in, Elena barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, cut her hair short, wore clothes that looked expensive but not flashy. She looked older, harder, like she'd aged 5 years in the past 12 months. But her eyes were clear, focused in a way they'd never been before. "Elena." Livia stopped just inside the door. "Thank you for seeing me." "Sit down." Livia sat across the table, her hands folded in her lap. "I know I don't have the right to ask you for anything. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I needed to come back and say some things to your face." "Then say them." "I'm sorry for everything. For sleeping with Marcus, for betraying you, for helping Victor." Livia's voice was steady, rehearsed. "I was jealous and stupid, and I destroyed the only family I had. And then I lost my daughter, and I realized that pain I caused you, the miscarriages, the years of trying, I finally understood what that felt like." Elena felt nothing. No anger, no pity, just cold assessment. "Is that supposed to make me forgive you?" "No, I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What I took from you. What I risked." Livia's eyes filled with tears. "And I wanted to tell you that the money you've been sending, the support, You didn't have to do that. After everything I did, you could have left me to suffer. But you didn't. I did it for the baby, not for you. I know, but it saved me anyway. Livia wiped her eyes. I'm going back to Australia tomorrow. I'm not staying. I just needed to see you one more time and say thank you. You flew 8,000 miles to say thank you? I flew 8,000 miles to try to become someone who deserves your forgiveness, even if I never get it. Livia stood. I'm sober now. I'm in therapy. I'm working at a community center, helping other women who've lost babies. I'm trying to be better. Good for you. Elena, please, I know you hate me. I know I deserve it. But you're still my sister, and Her voice broke. I miss you. I miss our family. I miss the person I was before I ruined everything. Elena stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city. That person's gone, Livia, for both of us. We can't go back. I know, but maybe we could start over someday? Maybe. In about 20 years, when I'm sure you're not going to destroy my life again. Elena turned to face her. I'm glad you're getting better. I'm glad you're trying to be someone different, but that doesn't mean I trust you. And it doesn't mean you get to be part of my life again. What about Adrian? Will you tell him about me? When he's older, maybe. I'll tell him he had an aunt who made terrible choices and had to leave. Whether I tell him more than that depends on whether you prove you've actually changed. Elena moved to the door. Go back to Australia, Livia. Build your new life. And if you stay clean, stay healthy, stay away from this world for long enough, maybe eventually we'll talk again. How long? I don't know. 5 years? 10? However long it takes for me to believe you're not going to implode again. Elena opened the door. Goodbye, Livia. Wait. Livia crossed the room quickly. Can I just hug you? Once? Elena hesitated. Then she let Livia embrace her, this woman who'd betrayed her, who'd destroyed her marriage, who'd helped a man try to murder her husband. Livia held on tight, crying into Elena's shoulder, and Elena stood there feeling nothing but relief that this was ending. When Livia finally let go, Elena said, Take care of yourself. You too. And Elena, you're an amazing mother. Adrian's lucky to have you. How would you know? You've never met him. I can tell. From everything Rachel says, from the way you fought to protect me even after what I did. Livia smiled sadly. You're strong in ways I never was. He'll grow up safe because of that. Elena left without responding. In the elevator, she leaned against the wall and let out a breath she'd been holding for a year. It was done. Livia was leaving, going back to her new life, and Elena could finally close that chapter. When she got home, Marcus was on the floor with Adrian, building a tower of blocks that Adrian kept knocking down and laughing. How'd it go? Marcus asked. She's leaving tomorrow, back to Australia. We won't see her again for a long time, if ever. Elena sat on the couch, suddenly exhausted. She's trying to get better. I hope she makes it. Do you forgive her? No, but I'm done being angry about it. Elena watched Adrian demolish another tower, his face pure joy. I can't carry that anymore. I have more important things to focus on. Like what? Like him. Like this empire. Like making sure we build something that actually lasts instead of just surviving day to day. She looked at Marcus. I'm tired of just surviving. Then what do you want to do? I want to go legitimate, slowly, carefully, over the next 10 years. I want to transition our holdings into legal businesses, real estate, investments, anything that won't get Adrian arrested when he inherits. She'd been thinking about this for months, planning it. We use the illegal operations to fund the transition, then phase them out. Marcus stared at her. You're serious? Completely. My father's in prison because he couldn't walk away from this life. I won't let that happen to you, or to Adrian. She picked up Adrian, held him close. We're going to build him something clean, something he can be proud of. That'll take years. Then we start now. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. All right. Tell me how. They spent the next week planning it. Elena mapped out which businesses could be transitioned first, which properties could be sold, which operations needed to be maintained until the legal side was strong enough to support them. It was complicated, risky, and would take every bit of strategic thinking she had, but it was possible. And more than that, It was necessary. New Year's Eve came. They dressed for Nico's party, Elena in a black dress that finally fit her post-pregnancy body, Marcus in a suit that made him look like the dangerous man he was. Adrian stayed home with the nurse, and for the first time in a year, Elena let herself go out without worrying every second that something would happen to him. The party was elegant, crowded with people from every level of the city's power structure. Nico greeted them at the door, kissed Elena's cheek, shook Marcus's hand. No balcony drama this year, he promised. Just drinks and dancing. We'll see how the night goes, Elena said. She worked the room like she was born to it, talking to politicians and business owners and people whose money came from sources they'd never admit to. Marcus stayed close, playing his role as the enforcer, the threat. They were a team, functioning smoothly, and people noticed. At midnight, when this countdown started, Elena found herself on the terrace. Not the same balcony as last year, but close enough to trigger memories. Marcus appeared beside her. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" "About how different everything is. A year ago we were killing Victor. Now we're planning to go legitimate." She looked at him. "Do you think we can actually do it?" "If anyone can, it's you." He touched her hand. "You've already done impossible things, Elena. This is just one more." The crowd inside started counting down. 10, 9, 8. "I never thanked you," Marcus said suddenly. "For what?" "For not leaving. For not taking Adrian and disappearing after what I did." 7, 6, 5. "You could have, you should have, but you stayed and turned us into something stronger." "I didn't do it for you." "I know, but I'm grateful anyway." 4, 3, 2, 1. Fireworks exploded over the city, bright and loud and beautiful. People inside cheered, kissed, celebrated the new year. Elena and Marcus stood on the terrace, not touching, not celebrating, just existing in the space they'd carved out together. "Happy New Year," Marcus said. "Yeah, you too." They went back inside, back to the party, back to the performance. But something had shifted, some unspoken understanding that they were moving forward, not back, that the year ahead would be about building, not surviving. 3 months later, Elena stood in front of a building downtown, looking up at the sign, Hale Foundation. Marcus stood beside her, holding Adrian, who was trying to grab at pigeons. "You sure about this?" Marcus asked. "Completely." She'd spent months planning it, using their money to establish a charitable foundation that would support families affected by crime, women recovering from pregnancy loss, children who'd lost parents to the system. It was the first step in their transition, the first piece of the legitimate empire she was building. "It's a good thing you're doing." "It's a strategic thing, but yeah, it's also good." She took Adrian from him, kissed his chubby cheek. "Your grandfather would have thought I was crazy, but I think it's the smartest move we've made." "Why's that?" "Because power doesn't just come from fear anymore. It comes from respect, from being seen as someone who builds instead of just destroys." She looked at the foundation sign. "This is how we change the narrative. This is how Adrian grows up with a legacy he can actually be proud of." They went inside for the opening ceremony, where Elena gave a speech about second chances and rebuilding after loss. She didn't mention Livia by name, or her father, or any of the specific pain that had led her here, but it was all there, coded into every word. After the ceremony, Nico approached her. "This is impressive. Really impressive." "Thank you." "I've been thinking about what you said, about going legitimate." He glanced around, making sure no one was listening. "I might want to talk to you about how to make that happen, for my family. Anytime. I'll walk you through it." He smiled. "I knew you were smart, but you're also good. That's rarer." "I'm not good. I'm just tired of being bad." "Isn't that the same thing?" Maybe it was. Elena wasn't sure anymore. All she knew was that she was building something different, something that might actually survive beyond her lifetime. The months continued. The foundation grew. The legitimate businesses expanded. The illegal operations slowly, carefully wound down. It wasn't fast, and it wasn't easy, but it was happening. Adrian grew too, started walking, started talking, started becoming a little person with opinions and preferences. He loved trucks and hated peas and called Marcus Dada, but called Elena Mama Boss, which made Marcus laugh every time. He's got you figured out already, Marcus said. Smart kid. Her mother visited more often, bringing news from the prison. Her father's health was declining, the years catching up with him faster than anyone expected. Elena went to see him once, brought photos of Adrian, told him about the foundation. You're doing good work, her father said through the phone, his voice weaker than she remembered. Better than I ever did. I learned from your mistakes. That's all a parent can hope for. He coughed, his face gray. Take care of that boy. Make sure he knows he comes from fighters. I will. It was the last conversation they had. Her father died 3 months later. Heart attack in his cell, gone before anyone could help. Elena didn't cry at the funeral. She'd done her grieving years ago when he was arrested. This was just paperwork. But she held her mother while she sobbed, and she let Adrian place flowers on the grave. And she thought about legacy and mistakes, and the things we pass down without meaning to. A year and a half after Adrian's birth, Elena sat in her office at the penthouse, reviewing the quarterly reports. The foundation was thriving. Their legal holdings were generating real income. The illegal operations were down to 30% of what they'd been, and shrinking. Marcus came in, handed her coffee. The Volkovs are officially out, sold their last holdings this morning. And the Calabreses? Nico's following your playbook. He's already launched 2 legitimate businesses. But Marcus sat across from her. Everyone's watching what we're doing. Some think we're crazy. Some think we're smart. What do you think? I think you're changing the game, and everyone else is scrambling to keep up. He paused. I also think I'm proud of you. I know that doesn't matter much, but I am. It matters a little. Elena set down the reports. Thank you. For what? For letting me do this. For trusting that I knew what I was doing even when it seemed crazy. She met his eyes. We're not what we used to be, Marcus. But we're something, and that's enough. Is it? Enough for you? She thought about it honestly. Some days. Other days I still want to hurt you for what you did. But those days are getting fewer. She stood, moved to the window. I think eventually I might actually forgive you. Not forget, but forgive. I don't deserve it. No. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. And for Adrian. She turned back to him. Holding on to anger takes energy I need for other things. Marcus nodded slowly. Then I'll keep earning it. Every day. Good. That night they had dinner together as a family. Adrian made a mess of his pasta, got sauce everywhere, laughed when Marcus made faces at him. Elena watched them, these 2 people who were her whole world now, and felt something close to contentment. Not happiness, exactly, but peace. Hard-won, fragile peace that might break at any moment, but was real nonetheless. After Adrian was asleep, Elena stood in his doorway watching him breathe, thinking about the future. He'd grow up in a different world than she had. He'd inherit businesses, not empires. He'd learn strategy, not violence. He'd be better than both of them, if she had anything to say about it. Marcus appeared beside her. What are you thinking? That we did it. We kept him safe. We're building him something real. She looked at her husband, this man she'd loved and hated and somehow managed to partner with through all of it. And that maybe, just maybe, we didn't completely screw everything up. High praise. It's all I've got. He put his arm around her shoulders. She let him, leaned into it slightly. They stood there watching their son sleep, 2 broken people who'd somehow made something whole. Elena, Marcus said quietly. Yeah? I love you. I know you don't want to hear it, and I know it doesn't change anything, but I do. Still. Always. She didn't answer right away. Then, I know. And someday, I might be able to say it back and mean it the way I used to, but not yet. That's okay. I'll wait. You might be waiting a long time. I've got time. They stood there in the dark hallway, watching their miracle child sleep, and for the first time in almost 2 years, Elena let herself believe that maybe they'd actually make it through this. That maybe the empire they were building would be something Adrian could actually inherit with pride. That maybe the pain and betrayal and loss had actually led somewhere worth going. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It wasn't the marriage she'd thought she'd have, but it was real, and it was theirs, and it was enough. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Not the perfect love story, not the revenge fantasy, not the happily ever after. Just two imperfect people learning to build something better than what they'd started with, one careful choice at a time. The woman who'd walked into that bedroom on Christmas Eve was gone, burned away by grief and rage and necessity. In her place stood someone harder, smarter, more dangerous. Someone who'd learned that survival wasn't about being strong. It was about being strategic. That power wasn't about control. It was about knowing when to let go. Someone who'd taken the worst moment of her life and turned it into fuel for something bigger than revenge. Elena Hale wasn't the betrayed wife anymore. She wasn't just Marcus's partner or Adrian's mother, though she was both of those things. She was the architect of a new empire, the woman who'd seen the game everyone else was playing and decided to change the rules entirely. And in a world full of ruthless men who thought they knew what power looked like, she'd become something they'd never anticipated, the one who decided who stayed, who fell, and what came next. Not through violence, though she could command it when needed. Not through fear, though she could inspire it without trying. But through vision, through strategy, through the long game no one else had patience for. She'd lost her innocence, her naivety, her belief that love could save anyone. But she'd gained something more valuable, the knowledge that she could save herself, that she could take broken pieces and build something new. That redemption wasn't about going back to who you were. It was about becoming someone better than you ever imagined. And as she stood there watching her son sleep, her husband's arm around her shoulders, the city glittering outside the windows like a promise and a threat. All at once, Elena finally understood something she'd been too afraid to admit. She didn't need forgiveness to move forward. She just needed purpose. And purpose she had in abundance. The story that started with betrayal ended with transformation. Not perfect, not clean, but real. And in their world, real was the only kind of victory that mattered.